Welcome to the Clara and Julian podcast. No fluff, just margins. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay ahead of the curve.
Look, how does a 1990s New York modeling agent, a guy whose core business was basically throwing nightclub parties, wind up as a U.S. special envoy brokering, like multi-billion-dollar international defense and energy deals? Usually when you evaluate global diplomacy, you're looking at rigid, highly institutionalized frameworks, predictable bureaucracy. But you look at the headlines this week, and it's like that entire framework has just evaporated.
Well, it forces a complete reevaluation of how global power actually operates.
Right.
Because what you're describing isn't traditional diplomacy. It is pure, unregulated information asymmetry. I mean, it's the ultimate arbitrage of social capital.
Exactly. And we are looking at a stack of incredibly dense due diligence today for you. We've got deep investigative reporting from the Financial Times, Vanity Fair, The Telegraph, The Observer, and even real-time open source intel from Reddit. Our mission for you on this deep dive is to dissect the trajectory of Paolo Zampolli, because this is a man who essentially claims to have turned the United States presidency into a localized, highly monetizable deal machine.
Right. And before we break down the mechanics of how he engineered this specific access, I need to make the parameters of our analysis here crystal clear to you, the listener. The source material we are auditing today involves highly politically charged realities.
Absolutely.
We are dealing with multiple presidential administrations, sensitive global security policies, and frankly, incredibly controversial figures like Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. So let me be definitive. We are not taking sides here.
No, not at all.
We are not endorsing any political ideology from the left or the right. Our sole objective is to impartially audit the factual timelines, the structural maneuvers, and the claims documented in these sources to understand the underlying mechanics of this network.
Yeah, let's get straight into those underlying mechanics then, because if you want to understand Zampoli's current geopolitical leverage, you have to look at his seed capital. I mean, his origins are rooted entirely in the aggressive acquisition of a proprietary network.
Which starts in Milan.
Right, Milan. He starts off inheriting his father's Italian toy company, Harbert, and they held the highly lucrative licenses for, like, Star Wars toys and easy-bake ovens in Italy.
Which is a foundational lesson in international distribution and licensing arbitrage. He's learning very early on how to act as the intermediary for massive intellectual property.
Yeah, but Milan isn't scalable enough for him. He decides it's, quote, too small. So he liquidates. He sells the company to a media group controlled by Silvio Berlusconi, who obviously went on to become Italy's billionaire prime minister and brought his own massive share of operational controversies.
Right.
So Zampolli takes that early liquidity and moves to New York in 1995. And he does this based on advice from John Casablancas, the founder of Elite Model Management. Zampolli opens his own agency, ID Models. But look, I view this business model, and ID Models wasn't exactly structured to secure top-tier Vogue covers. It looks a completely different play to me.
Well, because it wasn't a traditional talent agency. Zampolli was building a B2B service for the global elite. He recognized a structural inefficiency in the 1990s social market. High-end fashion models were essentially the ultimate barrier to entry for ultra-high net worth individuals.
A social premium.
Exactly. He utilized models as a form of social currency. He would pack his nightclub parties with young women, and that aesthetic asset served as a magnet. It attracted billionaires, politicians, and celebrities into a centralized, proprietary network that he alone controlled. He was the gatekeeper.
I see it as a human velvet rope. I mean, he built a social currency exchange where exclusive access was traded for proximity to raw power. But let's look at the tail risk of that strategy. Operating in that specific era of 90s New York nightlife, that was a notoriously dark supply chain.
Very dark.
How do you scale a network like that without getting completely entangled with the most dangerous operators of the decade? I mean, how does he navigate that?
The short answer is, you don't. And that is the operational failure point we are seeing scrutinized now. You have to remember, the 1990s modeling industry was a low-regulation, incredibly high-churn labor market.
Total lack of oversight.
Right. To understand the leverage, you have to look at the visa system. Agencies controlled H-1B and O-1 visas. They controlled the housing. They controlled access to the bookings.
So the employer effectively holds the worker's legal right to exist in the country. That's an extreme power dynamic.
It's an absolute monopoly on their legal status. In that ecosystem, Zampoli's operations heavily overlapped with men who systematically exploited that exact dynamic. Most notably, the French modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel and, of course, Jeffrey Epstein.
Let's drill down on that overlap. because Brunel wasn't just a competitor. He was the agent who allegedly procured young women for Epstein.
Correct. And the relationship wasn't merely social, it was a structural financial partnership. In 2004, Zampolli and Epstein actually launched a joint bid to acquire Elite Model Management.
Wait, really? A joint acquisition bid?
Yes, though that transaction ultimately failed. Furthermore, the sources indicate that Brunel was the specific agent who brought a 17-year-old Brazilian model named Amanda Ungaro to the United States, and she was flown in on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane.
Wow. And Amanda Ungaro eventually becomes Zampoli's wife.
Yes, she does. Now look, from a compliance standpoint, Zampolli aggressively denies any illegal involvement. He has stated on the record, quote, "I have never been legally accused or convicted of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking."
Right.
He actually insists that Epstein hated him. But the liability remains. Zampoli's name frequently appears throughout the Epstein files. He survived that era by acting as the ultimate transaction intermediary.
Always in the room.
Always in the room, always
Yeah.
facilitating the initial introduction, but maintaining just enough operational distance to push back against claims of direct criminal complicity.
Which brings us to the most significant introduction he ever facilitated. The strategic seed round that essentially funded his entire political future. Let's look at 1998. Zampolli had sponsored a young Slovenian model named Melania Knauss for an H-1B visa, bringing her to New York.
Right.
In September of that year, he hosts a party at the Kit Kat Club in Times Square. He brings Melania over to a VIP table to introduce her to Donald Trump.
What the historical record often glosses over there is that Trump was actually at that table on a date with someone else,
Unbelievable.
a Norwegian heiress named Selena Middelfart. Trump literally sent his date to the bathroom just so he could secure a few minutes to acquire Melania's phone number.
I mean, it is ruthless opportunism on all sides. But if you view this purely through the lens of long-term capital incubation, that introduction is the highest yield asset Zampolli ever generated. It allowed him to deeply penetrate the inner circle of the Trump organization.
It provided a direct pipeline. By 2004, Trump officially hires Zampolli as the Director of International Development for the Trump Organization. And the calculus was explicitly stated by Trump over dinner.
What do you say?
He reportedly told Zampolli, "If you lose your supermodel, you go out of business. But if I lose my superintendent, I have 1,000 looking for that job."
So Zampolli pivots his entire portfolio. He leaves fashion and starts his own real estate firm, the Paramount Group. And look at his go-to-market strategy. It's fascinating. He literally staffed his brokerage with former fashion models to sell luxury properties to tycoons and Saudi royals.
Which makes perfect sense from an efficiency standpoint.
Right. If you're listening to this and wondering how someone transitions from booking magazine covers to selling commercial skyscrapers, you have to realize the underlying asset is identical.
It's pure identity arbitrage. A model-turned-broker from his firm explained this dynamic directly to the BBC. She said if you merge the high-end fashion industry with luxury real estate, you are left with the exact same contact list.
The exact same Rolodex.
Right. Zampolli realized that ultra-wealthy individuals demand proximity to glamour. By replacing traditional real estate brokers with models, he eliminated the middleman. The exact same networking leverage required to manage a VIP nightclub table scales perfectly to closing a $15 million condominium transaction.
That is incredible. But look, selling penthouses to foreign royals has a natural ceiling. A premium contact list gets you in the boardroom, sure, but it does not give you the legal and regulatory immunity required to broker macro-level international deals.
No, it doesn't.
To get that, Zampolli had to exploit a completely different market. In 2013, he secures a title as a UN ambassador for oceans and seas, but not for the United States. Not for Italy, for the Caribbean nation of Dominica. And his wife, Amanda Ungaro, secures a parallel UN post for Grenada.
This is a masterclass in what we call sovereign branding. Zampolli recognized that a diplomatic passport is essentially a highly deregulated premium access pass.
But wait, walk me through this. How does a New York real estate broker suddenly dictate international ocean policy for Dominica? He creates these eco-charities with incredibly vague, grandiose titles like Green Ink and We Are the Oceans or Wado. I refuse to believe this was a sudden pivot to altruistic climate work.
Oh, it wasn't. It was pure regulatory arbitrage. To understand this, you have to look at the mechanics of Caribbean economic passport programs.
Okay.
Nations like Dominica offer citizenship and occasionally diplomatic postings to foreign nationals who inject heavy capital into local real estate or government funds. Zampolli leveraged his real estate background to facilitate a luxury resort project in Dominica. The ROI on that facilitation was sovereign immunity.
Which comes with tangible, immediate perks. I mean, he slapped diplomatic license plates reading 009 STD on his black Mercedes SUV, literally just so he could park in a restricted zone outside his Gramercy townhouse. He was actively getting into shouting matches with local motorists over it.
Right, but the parking spot is just a micro example of the macro strategy. The real value of the UN ambassadorship was access to the United Nations inner sanctum.
The ultimate VIP room.
Exactly. He replicated his 1990s nightclub strategy at the geopolitical level. He hosted events that provide the aesthetic cover of charity while functioning as highly lucrative backroom business introductions.
And that mechanism is exactly what triggered the $58 million UNOPS scandal. I need you to explain this because I think of the UN as deploying peacekeepers and food aid, not acting as some unregulated venture capital fund.
Well, it usually doesn't.
Right. So in 2015, Zampolli is at a party. He introduces two top UN officials, Great Faremo and Vitali Vancelboim, to a British businessman named David Kendrick. Just a casual introduction. But how does a party intro bypass the financial safeguards of the United Nations to the tune of $58 million?
Because of the specific entity involved.
Yeah.
UNOPS, the United Nations Office for Project Services, isn't the General Assembly. It is the operational and procurement arm of the UN. They handle billions in project execution.
Yeah.
So when Zampolli introduces the leadership of UNOPS to a private businessman at an exclusive gathering, shielded by the branding of his We Are the Oceans charity, it completely bypasses standard competitive bidding protocols. That single introduction led to a catastrophic misallocation of $58 million in UN funds into Kendrick's private businesses.
And what's Zampoli's defense? He told the New York Times he was, quote, merely making introductions, said he didn't collect a finder's fee, and that his true motive was just scoping out real estate investments.
Which perfectly illustrates his operational node. He acts as a decentralized writer for global capital. By positioning himself between institutional UN funds and private enterprise, he controls the deal flow while completely deflecting the fiduciary liability.
I mean, all of this, the B2B model agency, the luxury real estate pivot, the UN sovereign branding, it all functions as the infrastructure for his ultimate positioning in the second Trump administration in 2025 and 2026.
The deal machine.
Yeah, the deal machine. He is officially appointed as the U.S. Special Envoy for Global Partnerships. He's handed a seat on the Kennedy Center Board of Trustees. He now operates with the ultimate presidential shield and his stated business motto, 20 billion in 20 minutes.
Which is a claim that completely defies traditional macroeconomic negotiation.
It's staggering. He claims he secured a massive Boeing deal with the government of Uzbekistan by bypassing all standard statecraft. He literally told their officials, "Are you crazy? I'm not calling my boss for a measly $6 billion. I want $50 billion.
Wow.
He told them bluntly, if you want to make the president happy, buy Boeing. It's the simplest thing in the world. Now look, the Financial Times audited that claim and noted the reality was an initial $8 billion deal, not 20. But the audacity of the mechanism is the point. He's conducting parallel diplomacy.
Exactly. He is completely circumventing the United States State Department. We see him in Italy aggressively pushing Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to purchase American Iron Dome technology.
Right.
He is actively lobbying for Russia's reintegration into global sports. He even claimed credit for the deeply controversial proposal to convert war-torn Gaza into a Mediterranean Riviera styled after Dubai.
So let's analyze the systemic risk here. Because from a VC perspective, this is wild. What happens to a global superpower's foreign policy when it is managed by an operative whose primary diplomatic lever is buy American assets or I won't call my boss?
Well, you witness the total collapse of statecraft into raw salesmanship. It is the execution of transactional soft power.
Yeah.
In a functional institutional framework, foreign policy is debated, modeled for risk, and executed through established bureaucratic channels. Zampolli operates as a personalized algorithm for the administration. He utilizes the implicit threat of withholding the president's favor to force supply-side shocks in global trade.
Right, which is incredibly efficient for forcing immediate deal flow. But it introduces massive systemic volatility because it relies entirely on unregulated interpersonal leverage. So let's talk about that volatility and the tail risk. Because a business model built entirely on hoarded secrets, exclusive access, and interpersonal leverage has a glaring structural vulnerability.
A human elevator.
The people inside the network who know how the machinery actually works. Which brings us to the breaking news of April 2026. Zampolli and Amanda Ungaro enter a highly contentious custody dispute over their teenage son.
And Ungaro, to be clear, is the woman who flew on Epstein's plane at 17.
Right.
The woman who's inside Zampoli's inner circle for 2 decades and who served as a UN ambassador alongside him. She possesses absolute informational leverage.
So what is his risk mitigation strategy? He allegedly utilizes his White House connections to contact senior ICE official David Venturella. Zampolli flags Ungaro's immigration status,
Which is astounding.
This results in the mother of his child being detained in a Miami jail and ultimately deported to Brazil.
That is an astonishing operational escalation. Weaponizing a federal agency like Immigration and Customs Enforcement to resolve a private domestic liability.
And the market timing is explosive. This happens at the exact moment Melania Trump is holding a surprise press conference, publicly denying any ties to Jeffrey Epstein and declaring that victims' voices must be heard.
Right.
And right in the middle of this PR crisis, Reddit's open source intelligence community catches a massive red flag. On April 11th, 2026, as all these narratives are colliding, Zampoli's Wikipedia page is aggressively and systematically scrubbed.
Which is the digital equivalent of burning the cap table in the middle of an audit.
It is wild to me. You have a U.S. special envoy grappling with ICE deportations and presidential press conferences, and someone from his camp is simultaneously panicking over Wikipedia edits.
What exactly did they alter?
They alter the actual age Amanda Ungaro was when she met him, changing it from 17 to 19. They completely delete the entire paragraph detailing how he used ICE to deport her, and they systematically erase absolutely every mention of his historical connections to Jeffrey Epstein, including that failed elite model management bid.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Zampolli is running to the press, aggressively offering to testify before Congress, claiming the Epstein rumors are totally nonsense, and reiterating that he alone introduced Melania and Trump.
Look, if we analyze the macro outlook here, this behavior does not signal dominance. It signals extreme fragility.
Absolutely.
Weaponizing a federal agency against a former partner is a catastrophic misuse of leverage that exposes the entire enterprise to regulatory scrutiny. By deporting Ungaro, he may have temporarily removed her from the immediate U.S. legal jurisdiction, but he has engineered a highly motivated adversary who understands the exact operational realities of his connections to Brunel, Epstein, and the Trump inner circle. Furthermore, a real-time Wikipedia scrub in 2026 is an amateur maneuver.
It really is.
It leaves digital fingerprints. Open source intelligence communities and congressional compliance officers track those exact anomalies. It triggers the Streisand effect, drawing forensic attention to the exact liabilities he is attempting to conceal. I mean, it is the desperate flailing of a market bubble about to burst.
It really is a house of cards built entirely on VIP passes. So, to summarize this due diligence for you, we've tracked Paolo Zampoli's structural evolution. He starts as a Milanese toy company heir.
Right.
Pivots to a 90s New York modeling agent trading aesthetic assets for power, scales into a real estate broker using models to move penthouses, acquires diplomatic immunity through Caribbean sovereign branding, and finally, maneuvers into becoming a globe-trotting special envoy wielding federal agencies like a personal security force.
It serves as a profound case study in how global leverage is actually manufactured and deployed today.
And for you listening, this is critical because it completely shatters the illusion of institutional politics. It demonstrates that informal, backdoor relationships, VIP nightclub booths, and carefully monopolized social capital frequently dictate the massive macroeconomic deals that shape our geopolitical reality.
Far more than official policy papers ever do.
Exactly. The operators selling commercial skyscrapers and managing model visas are the exact same entities negotiating foreign defense contracts.
Which forces us to evaluate the ultimate tail risk here. Zampolli once boasted to a reporter, "Whenever people see me, they want something. They want access to the president."
Yeah.
But social capital is highly illiquid. It suffers from a catastrophic liquidity crisis the moment political winds shift.
That's the real threat.
Right. If Zampoli's entire portfolio, his complete asset class, is derived purely from his proximity to one specific president, what happens to the ultimate gatekeepers when the administration changes and that presidential shield evaporates?
Right.
Does the man who built a lucrative career exploiting institutional loopholes suddenly become the primary target for the very institutions he is currently manipulating?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question. Because when the political climate changes and the regulatory audits begin, a cleared Wikipedia page isn't going to offer much protection at all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.